Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Awaken Sunday Live Q&A, 28 techniques to raise consciousness through daily practice. Today, of course, Sunday, March 3rd. It is now 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and you are here live on the Awaken the World YouTube channel with myself, me, Garhen, and Kelly, who just now remembered to mute her computer, since she's sitting right beside me. No sense hearing it twice. So, hello to all of you who are here today, hiding in the background wherever you are, or watching this video later. And since there really is no later, we're all really here together. Isn't that great? All the time. Hello, Jennifer. So nice to see you. Feels like it's been a long time, Jen. Really does. Has it been a long time? Yeah, no, I don't think you want to hear me 2 times in a row, honey. I'm sure 1 time is more than enough, right? It's actually, really good. We're almost at 600 videos now, and when Kelly asked me a question, I just refer to a video. So much easier to do. So we just came off 28 days to a new consciousness. And if you participated or ever want to participate, there is an entire playlist. If there's no sound, it's on your end because Kelly's hearing me on her end. So double check what's happening with your sound, Jennifer, because I definitely have sound here. If you didn't partake in that, you can video 301. What's video 301? I don't remember video 301. I'm sure Kelly doesn't either. She's just making that up. So there's an entire playlist on YouTube on the Awaken the World channel, and the entire 56 videos of the 28-day journey are there in one spot, and a 57th. Because I did one the next morning. It felt kind of strange not doing one, and some people had commented on that fact. So I thought, why not? So we're going to have kind of like a review today, and it's not going to be, a hugely in-depth review. Yeah, I'm sorry, Jen. I'm not sure what the deal is, but it definitely must be on your end of things, because I know that Kelly's speakers were putting out my voice, and it's streaming back down from YouTube. So we will catch up to you later. So we're going to go through these techniques that you can use, okay? And the first technique is the technique that you were born with. The one that's built in, the best tool you have to keep you present. And that tool, of course, is the breath. The moment you pop in this world, the reason why we cry when we first pop into the world, it's because it's really like, whoa, physicality. It's so dense. It's so heavy. It's so heavy. When we're used to being these super light, pretty much weightless, energetic beings, and yet we take our consciousness and we manifest this physical form, and it feels so heavy that when we first pop out of the womb, we're just in shock. But what starts to happen? The breath starts right away, and that breath stays with us until the day we die. According to yogic custom, you are born with a certain number of breaths accorded to you. So use them wisely. And that's another way of saying, who knows how long you're going to be here? You're going to be here until whatever you came here to do is done. So use the time. Our breath always brings us back to the present moment when we focus on it. Other tools we can use, of course, in conjunction with our breath, include our senses. Our senses are other fantastic tools that don't always stay with us, and some fade, and some grow, and some fail, like eyesight. If you're 20 feet away from me, you're kind of a blob now. I spent 25 years staring through a sniper scope. Didn't do very well for my eyes, let me tell you. That aside, though, your senses work to keep you present. They're relaying information to you about the present moment. And underneath those senses When you're following and paying attention to that breath, all the other senses come into play. And depending who you talk to, our senses range right up into the high 20s for the number of senses we possess. We must understand that in our quest to be conscious, in our quest for conscious awareness, that we are actually already there. We're already where we need to be. Right? Gate, gate, paragate, parasamgate, bodhisvaha. Already gone to the other shore. All of us already standing there on the shore of enlightenment. So what gets in the way of that? What gets in the way of that is this egoic perception of I. The idea that we are the sum of the memory bank that this physical body possesses. Now that memory bank is extremely valuable. It's relaying and bringing back experience into, incorporating that into the whole, into that sea of consciousness. Part of God evolving itself back unto itself. And this ego is not to be destroyed. It is a magnificent tool that will serve you extremely well once you train it. Get that leash back on it and get it back in that doghouse where it belongs. But it is your best friend. Right now it seems like your worst enemy, and I totally understand it. Mine ran rampant for decades. It took a long time to get it back under control, and I can't say that it's always back under control. I would say about 98% of the time. In that state of inner stillness, in the realization that you are so much more than you thought you were, you realize that ego is still part of spirit. Our egoic sense of self, the ego consciousness of humanity, that whole, that totality that we think we're an individual part of, is still spirit. It is still that sea of consciousness. Still God's creation within the energy of God, within the mind of God, within that sea of consciousness. I see that Terry is here. I'm just going to adjust my screen a bit. There we go. Hello, Terry. Nice to see you. Terry Kelly. Hi, Kelly. Okay, now I'm just confused. What? I don't get a hello? Fine. She's better looking. I know. So, you know, the point with ego is we don't want to think we want to get rid of our ego. You know, and that's different from letting go of that false sense of self, okay? When you let go of that false sense of self, the ego is still Garhen as an entity, as an energy form. It's consciously aware of itself, and it thinks it's all that it is. But it's not. And when you come from that place of silence, when you can follow the breath and allow the senses to bring you into the present moment, you realize that you are something far beyond that, something far larger and far greater. You weren't sure if we were live or I was alive. Listen, it's really a guess whether any of us are alive. We could just be a computer simulation for all we know. No, really. We're not going to get too carried away with that. Live, not live, dead, not dead. All pretty much the same. You can mix them all up together. It's okay. Where do we come to? Well, when we begin to put ego back into its place, when we begin to use ego as a tool, when we use the mind for the purposes in the physical world that it is specifically designed to do and does so very well, as a comparative machine, as a calculating machine, as a logical figure-outer, the ego appears to be quite intelligent. But when that has no guiding principle behind it, when it has no connection behind it, that intelligence is let loose with the results that we see around the world today. Using the atom to create bombs instead of power. Using minerals from the earth to create gunpowder instead of build. This is that same intelligence. It represents the destructive side of that sea of consciousness. Shiva the destroyer. For in order for new things to be created, that which has been created must constantly be destroyed. That is the truth of the physical universe and part of the duality of our existence. When we accept that ego is simply the memory bank, a self-aware memory bank that thinks it's the sum of its experiences, when we understand that we are that observing consciousness that sits behind that is all pervasive and all-inclusive, then we can begin to change and act from a place of responsibility. Responsibility. Our ability to respond is always based on our level of consciousness. And if our level of consciousness is very much asleep, we are no longer responding, but simply reacting over and over and over again. Those same comparative ideas and thoughts when ego's in control. And this is the issue when we run into someone in the present moment and they remind us so much of someone we hated in our past, perhaps. We struggle to see the new person in front of us because the mind is overlaying the old on the new all the time, always looking to make the comparisons, always looking to figure it out. When you get that dog back in its doghouse, ego only comes out to do that upon request. And it's a much better place to be. As we grow in conscious awareness, our ability to respond to what we see going on around us rises as well. We learn to respond from that place of stillness, of wholeness, and of oneness. That carries us to another big issue with ego, and one of the tools that ego loves to use, and it is the one tool that you must snap in half. It's like the shovel that the dog somehow figured to use to dig under the fence. You got to take that shovel away, and you got to break it, so the dog can't use it to get out anymore. And that shovel, of course, is the idea that everything that happens to you is somehow personal, when in fact nothing is personal, and yet everything is personal. Now, that sounds kind of whacked when we talk about things like that. Well, wait a minute, if it's not personal, how can it be personal? Well, here's the deal. Whenever you run into someone else, whatever's going on with them belongs to them. The fact that you're there is not personal. If you take you out of the picture and jam anyone else into there, they're going to still behave the same way. They're still going to say the same things they're going to say. Why? Because that's all based on them. It has nothing to do with you, and you have absolutely zero control over it. When it comes to responsibility and responsibility, this ties right into understanding things that are personal and not personal. It is not personal that someone else does not believe the same as you. It is not personal that they don't happen to agree with you on a particular subject. It is not personal that they choose to live their lives in a way that is harmful to themselves. We don't own that. What we do own, however, is the realization that no matter what choice we make, no matter what action we take, no matter what thoughts we think, we own it all. We can't blame it on anyone else. In that regard, everything is personal. When we choose to let go of what's going on with us in our head and unleash it on someone else, because quite frankly, the pain of what's going on in our head is turning us into some sort of crazy monster, and you know exactly what I'm talking about. We're unleashing that on someone. We're trying to make them the object of our pain. That's ego trying to take the pain and put it outside of itself, refusing to want to have to understand that that pain it owns. It doesn't belong to anyone else. It hasn't been caused by anyone else. Now, of course, we're not talking about when someone physically abuses you, okay? That's physical pain. We are talking the pain of our mental suffering. And this suffering, whether we know it or not, is by choice. It always is. We choose one way or the other. Going right along with this concept of suffering, we have to look at the realization, of course, that understanding that nothing is personal and yet everything is personal, i.e., we own it all for ourselves. We cannot blame the environment or something outside of ourselves for our choices. Now, that may seem unfair in some ways, but you know what? As soon as you do start blaming outside of yourself for what you choose to do, choose to say, choose to think, you're also handing over all your personal power and saying, here, control how I feel. That may seem great at first if the person, place, or thing or circumstance that you're in is making you feel good. But what about when the circumstances are not making you feel good? It's a lie that anything makes us feel anything. We are the only ones capable of making ourselves feel anything at all. It's choice, one way or the other. As I said, playing right hand in hand with this is the concept and the understanding that you are not your experiences. Just because something happens to you does not make you that. There is a 1,000-mile difference between I have been raped and I am a rape victim. And we must understand the difference. Now, I'm not saying that rape is by any means something that anyone would want to have perpetrated on them. But one of the things that typically happens with people who are raped, and it's not always women, is that they somehow believe that they are less because of what's happened to them, that it is somehow their fault, and that the experience actually taints their being in some way. I experienced the same thing with myself upon waking up for the first time with the realization of how many people's lives I had ended as a soldier. You are not your experiences. You are not that which you have done, and you are not that which you have perceived has been done unto you. You are so much more than that. You truly are. This comes hand in hand, of course, with judgment, because we tend to judge ourselves based on what's happened to us in the past, and we tend to judge others based on what our past experiences have been. Learning to drop judgment, learning to simply let it be, to surrender and accept what is right now. And when you think about it, it's really insanity to do anything less. Let's take a very close look at things, okay? The way things are produced into the physical realm is first there is the thought. And that thought is followed by words, by speaking it out. And that speaking it out is then followed by actions. And the final result, long after the first thought, is the monument or the after effect of the thought and the speaking it out into the physical universe as creative beings. That monument only exists as long as we hold our attention to it. As soon as we take our attention away from that monument, whatever it is that we've created through thought, word, and deed, entropy takes over, a natural effect of the physical universe. When consciousness is removed from something, when awareness is taken away from it, physically it begins to fall apart. It's no longer receiving energy to keep it in place, to keep it in the physical existence, okay? So when we judge things and when we fail to surrender and we fail to accept what is already manifest, we truly are acting from an insane place. It's already here. The thoughts and words and deeds that created it are long gone, long past. They started a long time ago. We missed the boat because the time to stop it was way back then. It's okay. All you have to do is stop fighting up against what is, because as soon as you do stop fighting up against what is, it begins to lose energy all by itself. Nature takes over and it will fall apart and dissipate and disappear from your existence. It's a guarantee, no pun intended. When we accept what is, we are able to choose again from the right place of consciousness. Because, of course, whatever we have manifested, we must love. We must love what it does for us, whether it helps us to understand what we never want to manifest again, or it helps us to understand what we do want to manifest more of. Either way, we have to own it and we have to love it. And then you have to let it go with gratitude. Now, that doesn't mean you have to go shake the hand of the person who robbed you. But you have to be grateful for the after effects. Because if you've come from the right place in your existence, there's been growth there. There are no coincidences. None at all. Only synchronistic events in a perfectly synchronistic universe. So when we learn to drop judgment and to surrender and live from a place of acceptance of what is, we begin to experience the natural form of gratitude. You know, Kelly and I were at our favorite secondhand store, I don't know, a couple of days ago now. And we needed, I've been waiting patiently for a couple new light fixtures. We have these oil rub bronze and kind of a white crystal sort of look light fixtures in the hallways and the like. And they're $30 a piece, and I was tempted to buy them a little while ago, and I thought to myself, I'm not going to bother quite yet. Why? They're going to turn up. So we were at the bin a couple days ago, and sure enough, there sitting on the shelf is a 2-pack box of them, brand new, never been used, for $10. And I grabbed the box and I showed it to Kelly. I said, see? And it's not like I've had time to put them in, you know, but here they are. They've appeared. And when you come from that place of gratitude, these are the things that starts happening. You begin to notice that anything that you truly wish for, that is not going to harm you, 1, 2 is not going to harm another, and 3 is not going to harm our environment, will come to you quite quickly. When you come from that place of gratitude, it is what I call a joyful expectation that life is going to bring something else. And it always does. And as long as you don't hold on to those things, as long as you refuse to attach yourself to those physical objects that come in and pass through like a stream of water. You know, if you try to grab water and squeeze it in your hand to hold on tight, you end up with very little water when you need a drink. But if you cup your hands and let the water flow through your hands and fingers as you lift it, you can get a really nice drink of water. And the rest of the water goes back into the stream and continues on. We let go of that little bit of water that doesn't get in our mouth. We need to learn, manifest the installer. Yeah, funny one, Terry. And this comes to exactly what we're talking about, okay? When you come from that joyful state of expectation that whatever you need, truly need to help evolve your being, evolve your existence, will be ready for you. Before you've even asked, it's already been given. And you begin to see it. You begin to see it operating in your life. You begin to expect it. You begin to look for it. Gratitude. Gratitude for waking up. Gratitude for having eyes. Gratitude for having a sore leg, for at least I have a leg to be sore. It's all in the perception. And we have a fantastic tool to deal with our thoughts. A tool to tell us when our thinking is way off base, or to tell us when our thinking is right in alignment with cosmic truth, okay? And that tool is the energy field of the human body. This energy field is being manifested by your higher self. You're not stuffed into this little physical shell. Your higher self is manifesting every single one of its egoic consciousnesses, every single spoke of the wheel that it is, simultaneously. We like to think of past, present, and future. But of course, in reality, it's more like pieces of paper stacked on top of each other, all in the same moment of now, not an endless line or an endless banner of pages, one after another. This tool, this energetic device, creates feelings, and these feelings are based on our thoughts. Now, I want to be crystal clear to you. There is a big difference between feelings and emotions. We're going to talk about feelings for right now. Feelings are generated solely by thought, whether conscious or unconscious. And they are the body's reaction to the tuning of the thoughts that are going on. So if you're having thoughts which are full of lies about yourself, that you're small, that you're unworthy, that you're unable, that you can't, that life is horrible, that nobody loves you, that you are not cared for and infinitely loved, you're going to feel like crap. Your body is going to generate feeling after feeling after feeling, trying to get you to catch on and say, wait a minute, my body is telling me I'm leading myself down a bad path. I'm lying to myself. Notice the difference when you allow the thoughts that go along with gratitude and acceptance and surrendering and letting go of judgment. Notice that the thoughts, when you begin to tune yourself to that higher vibration of being, the thought stream that's coming into you is more refined and lighter, and you feel better, you feel good. Your body is responding to your thoughts and saying, yes. Now you're starting to get in alignment with the truth of your being. Now you're starting to speak in alignment with what you really are. Now maybe we can get down to some fun. because that's really what it's all about. Don't get caught up in feelings. You know, I've heard way too many people say, well, you got to pay a lot of attention to your feelings. Sure you do. Only as far as recognizing that the feeling is a result of wrongful or rightful thinking. And when we say wrongful or rightful thinking, we're just using those terms. Whatever you choose to think is okay, you're going to reap the consequences of it. You're going to feel in your body structure the way you think. And your body is an energy field. The more dissonant vibrations you try to jam into that energy field, the more the body reacts to that. The more the body responds to that in what we would call negative ways, trying to wake us up to what's going on within our own mind. This comes right down to this transmitter receiver, and that's really what we are. We're a bunch of walking clock radios. That's really about it. Of all different shapes, makes, and models, each one with a different set of speakers. Some with really big speakers, some with little tiny speakers, some with only one speaker. Each one tuned to a slightly different station. Well, ego, as a collective, the collective ego of humanity, which is the total thoughts that have ever gone on of every human being that's ever been here. This is the egoic cloud that we pull from. This is the race consciousness, where our archetypes come from, where we get those common images of hell that were driven into us thanks to Dante's Inferno and other similar tragedies. This transmitter receiver that we are tunes in to that radio station. And depending on where your vibrational state is, you will tune into a thought stream or a radio station that is in harmony with those vibrations that you are putting out. So if you find yourself thinking good thoughts, you will find yourself thinking more good thoughts, and you will think that those thoughts are all your thoughts. Not really. You didn't intend to think them. Did you? Sometimes we do, but it's pretty rare. Most of our thoughts just come. That's because we're receiving them. Learning to sit at that picnic table by the stream instead of standing in the middle of that thought stream is what it's all about. Now imagine when you start to tune your transmitter into negative areas. You're thinking negative thoughts, and you believe they're all your thoughts, and you buy into them because you hear your voice in your head. And I commented on a video a while ago as part of the 28 days to a new consciousness, that it's kind of funny that most people, when they read, their head is dictating to them. They hear their own voice in their head as they read. But they understand that it's not their words, that the words are in the book. Why is it so difficult for everyone to understand that the thoughts your mind is reading out loud, dictating out loud in your voice, just like that book, aren't your thoughts? They are colored by your past experience. It's like the fine-tuning part of the dial, and the station can be a little fuzzy or not quite so clear. That is caused by our experiences and what we feel and think about our experiences. And that colors that thought stream and makes it feel so personal. And yet it's not. You did not intend to think that. How do we work on our transmitter receiver? Well, it's all about vibrational states. You want to stay away from the low frequency bands, and you want to stay up in the high frequency bands. So we do whatever we can to raise our vibration. This is part of growing our conscious awareness. Here's a big one, and this is tough for a lot of people, the understanding that you aren't even capable of washing the dishes as an egoic entity, okay? Garhen, as the concept that I am Garhen, whatever that may be, can't wash the dishes. I can have an intent that the dishes need to be washed. But if I pay close attention, Garhen and the concept of Garhen, the one that blabbers in the head, is not doing the dishes. It is not commanding the body. It is not consciously determining the motions. As a matter of fact, everything's happening quite automatically. It's all happening according to nature. The movements have been learned. The body already knows what to do. I'm not involved in it. As a matter of fact, if I were involved in it, it would get messed up. The body's intelligence controls all of your automatic functions. Can you imagine if you were responsible to consciously breathe? We'd all be dead within minutes. Oops, forgot. and that'd be it. We are not the doer. That sea of consciousness, God is the doer. Om Tat Sat. Literally, all is that with a capital T. It's all God. It's all that sea of consciousness. You're just along for the ride and to make ridiculous comments about your journey. Exactly like autopilot. Except the difference is that the body's pilot is far more not auto, and it is our egoic self that's far more auto. And we have to learn to get back control of that. Because really, that's what we're here doing. A running commentary on the existence that we think we are. Doing nothing in the process. Think about that for a little bit. What that really means is you're not responsible for the outcome, okay? It doesn't mean you don't do your best. It has nothing to do with the responsibility to consciously intend to do your best. But the results were never in your hands to start with. It's the same thing when you try and convince someone to believe your point of view, right? You're going to try your best. You intend to try your best. You're not going to consciously think about what to say, but you intend to try your best. So outcome, your intent. The thoughts start to flow, you have the conversation, and guess what? No matter what you do, the person just won't buy into your point of view. Why? The outcome was never yours. You didn't have any control of it to start with. You never did. You may think you have control over doing the dishes. You don't. Never mind the obviousness of the fact that you could drop dead right in the middle of doing them and fail to finish the dishes. This comes down to the illusion of form and the understanding that the illusion we live in that we would call Maya is quite real. Go step in front of a bus. Fall down a cliff. Been there. Have a chute not open on you and hit the ocean at terminal velocity. Trust me, it hurts. It's very real. The illusion, of course, is in the fact that we see all these many forms, never understanding that all these many forms are manifestation of one magnificent whole, one magnificent consciousness that we are an intrinsic part of. This is what the illusion of form means. It is not that solidity is an illusion. We know more about solidity. We know that solidity isn't really solid. That solid is actually made up mostly of empty space. And the particles that are in that empty space that we would call solid are moving at nearly the speed of light. And yet I can't seem to put my hand through this table too easily. That doesn't mean that it's not solid. It means that we didn't understand solid, and we still have yet to understand solid. And when we truly understand solid, it won't be solid anymore. This plays right into space-time and physical duality and coming to a base understanding of your existence here, okay? Everything here, by its very nature of existence, is based on duality. You cannot experience up without down. You cannot have in without up. You can't have, or in without out. You can't have cold without hot. You can't have crazy without sane. You can't have hairless without hairy. What does this mean in our everyday existence? It means that unconsciously and egoically, we're always looking for the white side of that yin and yang. We're always looking for what we would judge good, beneficial. We forget that by its very nature, anything that we wish to get a hold of comes with both. It comes as a duality. You cannot wish for happiness without being willing to experience sadness. You can't wish for peace without experiencing a lack of it. This is part of our journey here, okay? One of the things that absolute cannot do, one of the things that that sea of consciousness cannot do is examine itself, because it is all things. It couldn't do it by itself. There was no point of view. In order to examine oneself, one must at least believe that one exists outside of oneself, and then can somehow look back in to see oneself. But when you're everything, there is no outside of you. So that sea of not consciousness, God, that creative essence of all, whatever you want to call it, joyfully had a wonderful, fantastic thought. And boom, in that explosion physicality, the universe was born as we know it today. And that sea of consciousness, God, that creative essence of all, exploded itself into a limitless number of little pieces of consciousness, each one a holographic whole of the one. An exact copy. Inherit with all the power, all the strength, all the wisdom, all the knowledge, and then put to sleep. Why? To have the experience of being somehow separate. Because it is in that separation that we can look back upon creation itself and realize that we're not separate. It moves me every time, it really does. Our concept of time, our concept of space are limited to this dualistic universe. And day by day, we find out that our concepts are just that. They're concepts. You're not going to be able to fully wrap around your head the idea that every one of your consciousnesses that you are part of, and they are not your past lives, they are the past lives of that central hub. Each egoic consciousness can be thought as a spoke on that wheel. They're all connected. They're all manifesting themselves simultaneously. That's why we somehow get a little bit of dimensional crossover, a little bit of vibrational crossover, where we'll pick up memories and believe they're of a former self. But they're not. They're of another version of the whole that you're part of, manifesting itself right next door, dimensionally, vibrationally. And there's a little bit of crossover there. And you pick those things up. This plays, of course, right into reincarnation. And the reality of reincarnation, okay, when you die in this life, and I've died a few times, and I've come back, thankfully, or not thankfully, it all depends how you look at it. But when you die, you're going to appear on the other side, if you will, as you. You're going to have a residual image of the body that you have right now. But when you choose to come back, you're not going to come back in this body again. You're not going to come back as you. You're going to come back as somebody else. Why? Because it was never you to start with, although it is you. And it's all you. But it's a larger you with a capital Y, not the little y. Your existence is eternal. There is nothing ever lost. It is impossible for energy to ever be lost. And the energy of your being, every single thought, word, and deed, is energy in motion. Energy expressing itself, consciousness expressing itself. How do I know it? Direct experience. If you have not had the direct experience of it yet, all you need is faith. And faith is nothing more than the idea that there is something more. Something more beyond what you know, beyond what you can think of. Something larger. That's it. That's the end of faith. Anything else you try to add to faith now turns into dogma and belief. Don't limit yourself by adding dogma and belief. All you need do is stick right now and always with the faith that there is more than you know, more than you're aware of, more joy, more bliss, more love, more awe, more life. Two younger Terrys. I don't know. Yeah, I'll tell you, Terry, if I traded myself in for two younger versions of me, they'd have to be on their own planet. Really, it'd be the safest way. And speaking of that, you know, we come to understanding love and a great part of it, which is humor itself. And one of the things I've mentioned in past times, and I'll mention it again, is, you know, you can go a long way in determining by how someone truly has a handle on life by the amount of humor they exhibit, okay? If you find some sort of enlightened teacher who's always a grump, I'd be worried. I really would. Because I got to tell you, when you really begin to understand how much we are loved, it is funny. It is funny, the things we put ourselves down here. I mean, come on, really? We are this tiny little 25,000 kilometer across ball of dust floating in a cosmos so vast it is beyond your comprehension. Our own galaxy would take 100,000 years of travel at the speed of light to reach the far side of it. The number of planets and species in this universe is staggering. The amount of life is staggering. Yet you would believe you're so small. You are part of that life. The love is in the realization that no matter what you may think as an egoic entity, no matter what you may believe, there is so much more. And that the journey is eternal. That there is no death. That death is just a word we use because we misunderstand what life is. Life is not a breakup. Life is a continuum. It is an open road upon which we all travel together. Humor must come into that. You must allow the humor of existence. You know, one of the most obvious ones, and I see this in grown-ups in so many ways, and it's hilarious. Do you remember when you were a kid, and when we fell down and scraped our knees, even though it was painful, the first thing we usually did is take a look and see if anyone saw. And depending who saw could change the outcome of your response to what just happened. You know, if mom saw, well, you could break out into tears and go to mom, and mom would make you feel better and get you a bandage or maybe a little treat. But if dad was sitting there perhaps, or one of your buddies, or a stranger, you would act differently. This is what we do. We continue to do this all through our lives. We choose to put on these little masks and play these little games, never understanding that you can never hide from the eyes of truth. That no matter what you are doing, you are watching yourself. That which you truly are is always present with you. And I just want to be clear, my eyes went this way from too much meditation. That's the truth. One or two of you may get that. Really, you got to be willing to laugh. First at yourself, at the way you behave egoically. And a lot of people say, well, you know, don't laugh at yourself and make yourself feel bad. And I would say to you, anything you can do to reduce your egoic concept of yourself and have fun while you're doing it, go ahead. I mean, really, when I see myself at 6 a.m. in the morning, I have to chuckle. I just do. I really do. The only alternative, I don't know what the alternative would be. And nothing's going to change, so you might as well just laugh. The wrinkle lines will get deeper. That's it, right? I mean, sooner or later they'll hit bone. They can only get so big. You know, we truly live in this amazing universe, and our world is amazing, and our experience here is amazing. And yes, like any adventure, you don't really want it all sunshine and roses. It gets, you know, people who go to Mexico and sit on the beach for a week and stare at the ocean and suntan, do that in your backyard and save the money. That's not why you're here. You're here to experience the awe of life itself, the majesty of life itself. You are part of that creative essence of everything, and you are here to have fun. You are here because you have a gift that impassions you, a gift that sets you on fire, a gift that when you're doing it, you feel more energy, not like energy is being sucked out of you. And the world needs that gift because only you can give it. Nobody else in all creation, ever, not since the dawn of time and not since till the end of time itself. There'll never be another one like you right now. What do you do with that? Nature equals nurture. Boy, this is a big one for me. I love being outside. I walked outside this morning and I was meditating and communing with the birds. And I looked up in the tree and there was this crow. And I looked knowingly at the crow and he looked knowingly at me. And then I said that he was pretty. He was a pretty bird. And he began to talk. And he talked in this amazing little voice that you would not have pinned on a crow. And then he would stop and I would talk back and then he would talk back to me. And finally I brought Kelly outside and I said, honey, you have to hear this bird. So I brought him out and I said, say something. And he did. And it was an amazing experience. When we connect with nature, we are recognizing ourselves fully within our environment. And that is so much easier to do when that environment is filled with trees and water and plants and animals and birds than it is when it's filled with angry people in the city. Nature offers you an opportunity to not only recharge your being, but it is physically healing. It helps to rebalance that energy field. A weakened nature will completely reset your immune system, restore you to that state of wholeness again. Take time every day, even if you can't go for a walk in the woods, and we don't always go for a walk in the woods, but I will sit on my back step and I will take in all of nature around me. I will take in the birds, I will take in the mountains in the distance, the sky, the life, the trees, every bit of it, and allow yourself to be one with it and part of it. Do not think of yourself as separate from it, because it is you who loses out in that mindset. Speaking of nature, we come to sacred spaces. And, oh, sorry, Terry, I didn't know you were heading out. Good to see you too. Take care. We'll see you again. Sacred spaces. Nature is a sacred space. Everywhere is sacred on this planet. Everywhere in creation is sacred. It truly is. But I would invite you to have a small sacred space within your own home. You know, I've endeavored now for the last 4 years, as I had promised Kelly I would do, to work diligently on making our entire home a sacred space. When you walk into our home, people invariably comment that there's something different. Little kids get it right away. They say it feels nice. It's all about creating that sacred space for yourself. And what does that really do? It is a constant reminder of the sacredness of your own being. And paying attention to that sacredness. What does that really mean? Well, of course it means that you would never give away what you hold sacred for yourself in order to try to get from another. And yet this is one of the things that we tend to do time and time and time again. We sacrifice that which we hold sacred within us because we feel we need something outside of ourselves. You are already whole and complete as you are. We come towards the end. Wrap this up. These are some great techniques that will always help, okay? When you've created a negative vibrational state, and that negative vibrational state is gathering more negative vibrations, one of the best things you can do is go for a nap. If you can go have a nap in nature, it's even better. But you can go take a nap. Now, Abraham Hicks talks about this, and it's true. It does reset your vibrational state to a degree. It allows what's in the conscious mind to be processed subconsciously, and you break that conscious train of thoughts. You've turned off the radio transmitter tuner. You're no longer picking up a signal for a period of time, and that allows that vibrational state to dissipate from your body. Meditation, again, a fantastic tool for not only stilling yourself, but leading your vibrational state upwards towards higher and higher vibrational states. When it comes to healing ourselves, I see a lot of people who want healing, and I got to give you my take on it, okay? My leg has been bothering me pretty solid for 3 months, give or take. And never once do I wish for my leg to be healed. What I instead wish for and meditate upon is for the understanding and the message and what I am to perceive in this experience. And once I have fully understood that, my leg will heal itself. Or it won't. You see, at a conscious level, I'm aware that I don't know everything about my path here. As an egoic consciousness, I'm not sure of the big picture of my existence. But in that silence, I am perfectly sure. So therefore, instead of asking for healing, I find that the best healing, the best opportunity for healing, comes from practicing these principles, practicing all of these techniques. And when you are interested in healing yourself, when you find yourself needing of healing, the best thing you can do is love yourself. Love the pain. Love that sore leg. Why? Because it's still attached. You can still use it. It's still there. Love it. It's trying to speak to you. When we worry too much about trying to be healed as if this shouldn't be, we lose out on part of life, and we lose out on part of the remembrance that's available for us. The remembrance that we're so much more than what we think we are. And that if you knew truly what you were, healing your body would be instantaneous. So when you seek healing, when you seek to be healed, seek your higher self. Seek to find the wholeness within. Look and see what the pain is trying to communicate. Rinse and repeat. Well, really, that's it. Every night when you go to bed, you're going to be able to rinse any negative vibrational states off of yourself. You can use tools like retrospection, examining your day, seeing where you went unconscious, and do so objectively without judgment, without blame, but responsibility. And then follow these techniques again. We will suffer as long as we choose to suffer. The end of suffering is the realization that all suffering outside of physical pain is a manifestation of the egoic mind, not of your existence, and certainly not of the truth of your existence. Much love to you today. Have a beautiful, beautiful Sunday. Look forward to more meditations, more great conversations. And as always, namaste from both Kelly and myself. Take care.